There are a lot of creative type people out there that probably would like a do-over. When I think of like M. Night Shyamalan, if he could go back in time and not make The Lady in the Water or whatever that movie was, I think he would definitely do it. He might have been passionate about the story, but the execution was terrible. In comic books, Tom King, I believe, if he had his druthers, if he could go back in time and change something about his comic book career, it would be Batman 50, the wedding issue, the notorious wedding that never happened, Batman and Catwoman. They hyped it up for a very, very long time. They promised they would actually get married and then pulled the rug out from underneath people and really exposed Tom King and his Batman run for what it was. And the sales just absolutely died. And I do think in the future, people are going to study Tom King's Batman run and the response people had to it and the way they were feeling about it, and how at one moment people's eyes could be opened when you disappoint them to such a degree that they finally realize, wait, there's a lot of other bullshit going on here. Because me personally, I thought Tom King's Batman run wasn't good long before Batman 50. I thought Tom King's Batman run was bad well before issue number 50. I thought the War of Jokes and Riddles was an absolute joke, an affront to Batman and everything he absolutely stood for. Now, there are some high moments and low moments in there. Certainly, once you see Batman watch Joker murder a lady on her wedding day and then not do anything about it and then get down to pray with Joker in the chapel or whatever, I was like, wow, this is not a Batman comic book. But a lot of people were forgiving that. And the sales on Tom King's Batman were really, really good. In fact, they were well over 100,000, I believe, every single issue up until issue number 50, which I think hit like 150. It might have been upwards of more like well over 150. So if you take issue number 50 as like a high water mark, going up to 150,000 sales and dropping to less than half of that, that was a dramatic escape plan by a lot of readers that were enjoying Batman. And Tom King is one that likes to control the narrative. He's gone back in time and said, hey, you know that thing that you really hated in Heroes in Crisis? That wasn't me. It was actually DC editorial. You remember that thing I did in Batman when we killed off Alfred and he's still not back yet? Never my idea. I always intended to bring Alfred back. It was DC editorial that screwed over my reputation. And now he's trying to do a little bit of crowd control when it comes to Batman 50, the wedding. Really the moment that exposed Tom King to a lot of people that, yeah, this guy is not the comic book writer that I thought he was. And I think he's proven that over time. For the most part, he is going to go in and destroy every single character that you like if he's writing them. That's just kind of his MO at this point. What am I talking about? His recent appearance at WonderCon 2023. It appears that Batman and Catwoman were set up to be wed in Batman number 50, which was a major turning point in Tom King's run on the title. The nuptials were heavily publicized throughout the media as DC promoted the event with news features, house ads, and tie-in comics. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Selena Kyle never showed up to the wedding, leaving the Dark Knight heartbroken. Although Batman and Catwoman later reconciled, another wedding wasn't in the cards. However, Tom King revealed that the story almost had another ending because his run was supposed to go up to, I believe, issue 110. Tom King had much bigger plans for Batman. It was ended abruptly because of the sales decline. He was able to end it, I guess, with City of Bane, I believe, I think at issue number 85. And it's crazy what DC Comics did, not only to the fans promising that Batman and Catwoman would be married in issue number 50, guaranteeing it, even going out there basically and lying to people. But what they did to the retailers was so much worse. DC Comics were actually going out to retailers and encouraging them to throw wedding receptions for Batman number 50. And they weren't like, get a cake, maybe get somebody in a wedding gown or a tuxedo or something like that, and then we'll reimburse you like 50% or something like that. Not that whatsoever. They said, hey, we think if you throw a wedding reception and you have cakes and all the bells and whistles that go along with weddings, it would be a great way to promote this. This is going to be a huge issue. You're going to want to be a part of this. And comic book shops basically went out of their own pocket on their own dime to go out there and promote this like a mega, super duper enormous event within DC Comics history. A lot of retailers sunk a lot of money going out there and marketing this damn event to their customers. And not only were people disappointed with Batman 50 when they finally got in there and saw the reveal that they didn't in fact get married, DC Comics took it one step further. They actually spoiled it. I think to the Hollywood Reporter, maybe it was the LA Times or something like that, but they spoiled it 3 days before the comic book even dropped, that they were not getting married, that they had pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. Obviously, the orders were in. The retailers had already paid out the money for the comic book. They'd already ordered the wedding cakes, sent out the invitations, had models and stuff in tuxedos, were having like midnight opening specials to where you came in at midnight on Wednesday so you could get it as early as possible, all out of pocket, bringing people in on their off time to sell this stuff, and they fucking spoiled it. Not even in a comic book media publication. It was just some mainstream outlet or whatever. It was one of the biggest backstabbings I've ever seen in comic books history. And obviously, people were very, very pissed. And people have remained pissed at Tom King for a very, very long time. And he's looking to change the narrative. During a WonderCon 2023 panel, one fan asked him to elaborate on a comment he made during a 2019 Hollywood Reporter interview. King said he had gotten special approval for plans that would change Batman for a generation. According to King, Batman and Catwoman were going to have a second wedding, and this time they would have gone through with it. At one point, it was greenlit. Near the end, the marriage was greenlit. King told the panel, "So I probably said it during the small window before that door was closed. It had been closed from day one. I proposed the marriage before I started on it, and then after Batman 50 came out, they were like, wow, there's a lot of energy here. So they said, yeah." So now Tom King's saying, yeah, I didn't screw you over. I didn't pull the rug out from underneath you in Batman 50. I planned to give you the wedding all along. And DC Comics had agreed to it after seeing the fervor and enthusiasm and excitement on Batman 50 itself. They're like, yeah, this is a great idea. And I do remember that quote that he was going to be changing Batman for a generation. And I remember when his run was over, nothing all that big really happened in City of Bane, which was the finale, the crescendo, so to speak. I think that's what it was supposed to be of his Batman run. I was going, well, fuck, what is this generational change that he made? I was like, I guess it's Alfred dying, when Bane snaps his neck, in front of Damian Wayne, because nothing else too particularly important actually happened in that event, despite it being like, I think it was 10 issues. It might have been less than that, but I think it was 10. So now Tom King is going back in time and changed the narrative saying, hey, I'm not the reason Batman and Catwoman aren't married. I'm not the reason that you felt gypped with Batman 50, the wedding that never actually happened, even though it says wedding special on the goddamn comic book. I planned to give it to you all along. DC approved it, and then they unapproved it. So therefore, you didn't get the story that you had been promised, obviously with Batman number 50, it was always why I planned to give it to you. It's such horseshit. He knew from the very fucking beginning that they were never going to get married. He knew that DC Comics publishing were going out there and lying to people stating Batman and Catwoman were getting married. He knew he was lying when he guaranteed that a wedding would happen in Batman number 50. Yet he went along with it because he thought it was going to be a big deal and there was going to be some controversy, and that's why they leaked it out to the mainstream press or whatever to basically go out there and screw comic book readers over. Well, really, the only person Tom King ended up screwing over in the long run was himself. His stature has dropped and dropped and dropped within comic books. I'm hoping, fingers giantly crossed, that hopefully Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is a blatant ripoff of True Grit, is enormously successful in the DCU. And James Gunn's like, why am I wasting this guy on comic books? And he just ends up in movies forever. That would be a literal dream come true for this comic book reviewer to never have to deal with Tom King again. I actually liked it there for that 1.5, 2 year period where he wasn't really doing any main characters. I mean, I guess he did have that Batman book, but other than that, he was just doing a bunch of side kind of characters. But once again, he's in fucking continuity. He's on Wonder Woman, and guess what? He's ruining the Wonder Woman character as well, just like he did with Wally West, just like he did with Batman, just like he did with the Mr. Terrific, just like he did with Adam Strange and every other fucking character the guy gets his hands on. But do not believe this guy. He is just spitting because he knows this hurt his reputation. The guy always goes back in time and tries to throw people under the bus because of mistakes that he made and he went along with. He wants to say it was DC editorial, it was DC's publishing plan is the reason you didn't get the wedding. No, this dude never planned on giving you the wedding. Although I do imagine it was discussed after there was so much excitement for Batman 50 and the sales skyrocketed and people were really, really excited until they realized it actually was never going to happen. Although Tom King is also claiming you can actually get the marriage if you want to see it. In 2021, King wrote the limited series Batman Catwoman for DC's Black Label imprint. The series featured a marriage between Bruce and Selina, but it was out of continuity. However, this was originally meant to be the ending to his Batman run. Clayman and I were supposed to do it. Batman Catwoman was supposed to be in continuity with them being married. And then so many things happened at once, but that was it. They were supposed to be married. I mean, they got married in Batman Catwoman, so that's great. There is a hint of truth to this one because I had been told behind the scenes when they canceled his Batman run that Tom King still had a lot of power. He wanted to finish his Batman run, and that's why they gave him Batman Catwoman. It was actually supposed to be in continuity. And then obviously James Tynion was going to be taking over on Batman. And once again, sales kind of went through the roof and spiked just because it wasn't Tom King at this point. And I think a lot of people were like, you know what? As long as Tom King's not on Batman, I'll at least buy the book to let DC know I don't want to read that guy's Batman book. But originally, what I was told was Batman Catwoman was supposed to be continuity. But you don't get a marriage there either. It's not like you see the wedding. If they do, it's like one panel. It's basically... it's such a shit show of the story. If you've never read Batman Catwoman by Tom King and Clay Mann, God bless your soul. You were spared something terrible. It's Batman's there, but it's more about the relationship between Selina Kyle and their daughter in the future and what a terrible mother she is and all this kind of stuff. And, Batman dies, or I guess Bruce Wayne dies. So that frees up Selina Kyle to go and murder the Joker. And then her daughter as Huntress has to come and get her and stuff like that. Oh, it was so bad. And then there's like this one moment where Catwoman and Joker are they keep having this weird relationship thing. And then Batman comes in afterwards and he's like, is that Joker I smell? Or something like that. Like kind of hinting that Catwoman and Joker were having some type of untoward affair behind Bruce Wayne, Batman's back or something. It's such garbage. And seeing the story for what it was, I'm not surprised. They're like, you know what? This really fucking sucks, Tom. Even by your low standards at this point, this sucks absolute ass. We're not going to make this continuity, which is something we should have done a long time ago with your stupid Nightmares fucking arc. You guys remember that? Of all the shitty stuff Tom King did with Batman, and Batman Catwoman is one of them. Batman 50 is certainly one of them. Wardrobes and Riddles is one of them. I would say shooting Dick Grayson in the head in Batman 55 is one of them. Killing off Alfred, certainly one of them. The Joker moment in the chapel that I talked about earlier on the lady's wedding day is certainly one of them. Fucking Batman Nightmares takes the cake as the worst thing that dude ever did with the character. I've never seen filler to such a degree that was that absolute terrible. It was unreadable garbage. If you don't know, I'm not the world's biggest Tom King fan, certainly on Batman. Oh man, there's so many things that, like, if I wanted to do a retrospective and talk about all the ways that he messed up the character, starting with him having Bruce Wayne try to commit suicide when he was like 8 years old and having Alfred see it, but not intervening, all the way to the end, it would be like a 3 or 4 hour thing and I would have to cut stuff out. That's how badly he butchered the character Batman. I don't know why they keep putting him on it, but the good news is that run sucked. It sucked before Batman 50, but Batman 50 was so fucking egregious. It pissed people off to such a degree, it finally opened their eyes and they're like, wow, I can actually see Tom King for who he is now, not my comic book writer, and his star has faded and faded and faded, and it's not a star anymore. He's just another dude at DC Comics that when they put him on your favorite character, you're like, fuck, I guess I'm not going to read that character right now. Hopefully he doesn't last very long. And that's basically who he is right now. Hopefully he makes it to the DCU in record time and just stays there and squats with James Gunn, because as a DC Comics fan enthusiast, I could live without the guy writing comic books anymore. I got nothing personal against him. I don't know him. If he saw me at a Comic-Con and said, hey, Wes, I'd like to buy you a beer and tell you why my Batman run doesn't suck, I would go have a beer with the guy. I got nothing personal against him, and we could talk it out or whatever. But man, as a comic book critic, somebody that covers the news and has to read his comic books, when they're important characters, the guy just fucking sucks. So God bless Batman 50 for really opening people's eyes. If you'd like more coverage on comic books, awesome podcasts around all this kind of stuff, you need to go check out Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. Lots of conversations going on there with your favorite guests like Doc, Aaron Sparrow, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser, Jim from Weird Science, and obviously yours truly as well.